Can you increase bone density with EMS training? It's a question that we get asked all the time, considering all of the work that we do is with EMS suits. And it's a really prevalent question as EMS training becomes more and more popular. So I want to dive into what the heck bone density actually is and means, how exercise increases bone density, and how you can increase bone density with EMS. So bone density or bone mineral density is simply the amount of bone mineral in your bones. And bone density tests measure the strength and density of your bones. Bone tissue is comprised of a mixture of minerals deposited around a protein matrix. Together, they contribute to the strength and flexibility of your skeleton. 65% of bone tissue is inorganic material, which provides the hardness of your bones. The major minerals found in your bones are calcium and phosphorus in the form of an insoluble salt called hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite crystals lie adjacent and bound to the organic protein mix. Magnesium, sodium, potassium, and citrate ions are also present, and they're what's called conjugated to those hydroxyapatite crystals rather than forming distinct crystals of their own. The remaining 35% of that bone tissue is the organic protein matrix, and 90% of that is type 1 collagen. Bone density tests use x-rays to measure how many grams of calcium and other bone minerals are packed into a segment of bones. The bones that are most commonly scanned are the spine, the hip, and sometimes the forearm. From that, you get two scores. You get a T-score, which is your bone density compared to what is normally expected in a healthy young adult of your sex. Your T-score is the number of units, called standard deviations, that your bone density is above or below the average. You will also get your Z-score, and that is the number of standard deviations above or below what's normally expected for someone of your age, sex, and height, and ethnic or racial origin. So that's what makes up your bones and what bone density is. Now let's talk about bone formation. The cells responsible for bone formation and reabsorption are called osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Osteoblasts prompt the formation of new bone by secreting the collagen-containing component of bone that is subsequently mineralized. The enzyme alkaline phosphate is secreted by osteoblasts while they are actively depositing bone matrix. Alkaline phosphate then travels through the bloodstream and is used as a clinical marker of bone formation rate. Osteoblasts have receptors for vitamin D, estrogen, and parathyroid hormone, and as a result, these hormones have potent effects on bone health through their regulation of osteoblastic activity. It's one of the reasons, again, that women are at a higher risk of osteoporosis. Once they have finished secreting that matrix, osteoblasts either die, becoming lining cells, or transform into osteocytes, a type of bone cell embedded deep within the organic matrix. Osteocytes make up 90 to 95% of all bone cells and are very long-lived. They secrete soluble factors that influence osteoclastic and osteoblastic activities and play a central role in bone remodeling in response to mechanical stress. Osteoclasts, on the other hand, erode the surface of bones by secreting enzymes and acids that dissolve your bones. More specifically, these enzymes degrade the organic matrix, and acids solubilize bone mineral salts. Osteoclasts work in small concentrated masses and take approximately 3 weeks to dissolve bone, at which point they die and osteoblasts invade the space to form new bone tissue. In this way, bone reabsorption and formation are always coupled. So how does physical activity increase bone density? Muscle contractions during exercise stimulate bone density improvements through a process known as mechanotransduction. A big word, but this process involves the conversion of mechanical force from your muscle contractions into biomechanical signals that promote bone formation and remodeling. Basically, when muscles contract, they pull on the bones to which they are attached. This creates stress on the bone. This stress then signals the bone-forming cells, the osteoblasts that we talked about, to increase bone production and mineralization, thereby enhancing your bone strength and density. The intensity and the type of muscle contractions, particularly those involving high loads or impact, are key factors in this bone strengthening process. But even weight-bearing aerobic exercise like walking or running can help your bones, but there are a couple of caveats. Generally speaking, higher impact activities have a more pronounced effect on bone than lower impact aerobics. Velocity is also a factor. Jogging or fast-paced aerobics will do more to strengthen bone than more leisurely movement. And keep in mind that only the bones that bear the load of the exercise will benefit. For example, running protects only the bones in your lower body, including your hips. So how does EMS impact bone density? EMS can produce extremely strong muscle contractions by directly stimulating the muscles using the electrical impulses. This technology actually bypasses the normal voluntary activation pathways of the central nervous system. The electrical stimulation targets the motor neurons in the muscles directly. Therefore, we can stimulate the full muscle fiber from the very first repetition and cause extremely intense muscle contraction. These contractions can be quite powerful and can recruit a higher percentage of muscle fibers, including those which are not usually activated through conventional training methods. This leads to significant and intense muscle activation, which again, as we talked about, has a huge benefit on muscle strength, but also bone density and strength. So yes, EMS can improve bone density just like weight training. There are a number of studies designed specifically to look into this and show the benefits. We also use a Staiku body scanner for all of our body comp analysis with our clients and show the increase in bone density with those clients as well. It is important to note that we use very high-end EMS devices and we have control over the frequency of the stimulus that is sent into the muscle. It's important to have this really high frequency to be able to achieve those really strong muscle contractions. And if you don't have control over that, you could be using EMS devices that aren't creating a strong enough muscle contraction, one, to even stimulate muscle growth or strength, and two, to increase bone density. So make sure you're actually researching and looking into the type of EMS devices that you're using. As with all of our content, our hope is that having a better understanding of what's actually going on in your body gives you the ability to make more informed and therefore better decisions for yourself.